look good for a TikTok video, that they lose sight of what it really is. And charisma is really about them. It's about the other person. It's about your audience. It's about your prospect, your potential client or customer. So when we engage them, we actually are perceived as somebody that's likable, knowledgeable, and let's call it trustable. I think I just made that word up. So maybe Oxford English Languages will let me add that one. But in other words, it's an LKT factor. Do I like this person? Do they seem knowledgeable or competent? And can I trust them? Are they someone that I want to do business with?
How do I become likable? I mean,
Great
knowledgeable,
question.
I can go off and learn stuff.
That's right.
Trustable, I can do things that I say I'm going to do. But likable?
Yeah.
What if I'm just a bit of a dick?
But it is this likable piece that is so interesting, because that's where first impressions come in. That charisma really is the ability to be decent, the ability to be human, and the ability to be responsive. So that's where the likability factor comes in play. Ask yourself, what's the impression I'm trying to make? And is it authentic to me? Which we can go deeper on.
A former global sales exec turned leadership coach, he's negotiated over $100 million in deals across sports and entertainment, built teams on 3 continents, and now teaches leaders how to turn human connection into commercial advantage. I love that. He's known as the real-life Ted Lasso. He's the founder of Be Confident and Kind, and he's the author of Charisma Craft, a modern leadership guide to enhancing your Rizz factor. Thank you for joining me here on Leadership Sells, podcast for teams of people who like to lead first and sell more. Most sales teams today are not actually teams. They're what we call teams in parallel. They're working in a similar way, but not with each other. And most sales managers are still leading like it's 1984, like they've got a football team when they've really got a group of golfers. Now that mismatch creates all sorts of pain, poor coaching, bad pipeline meetings, burned out managers, and reps who just drift along. We built a lightweight reset that helps your managers lead them in the right way, set clear expectations, build identity without the fluff, and coach for autonomy without going hands off. It's not training. It's a shift in the model that fits the team you've actually got, and your performance will just scale a whole lot easier. Now, if that sounds like it's your world, grab the free Parallel Team Playbook at the Practical Leadership Academy website. It's short, sharp, and made for senior folk with teams of managers just like you. Milam Miller. Thank you very much indeed for joining me.
You are so welcome, Paul. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
It's good, grand. I mean, I'm really looking forward to digging into the Rizz factor. It sounds like something it's going to be quite profound. On the subject of things that are profound, charisma, okay? You're just born with it, right? You're born with it, and you've either got it or you don't have it. Charisma, gray hair, it's one of those things. Talk to me about this. What's the one charisma myth that you love debunking?
Well, you just said it, Paul. I hate to break it to you. I hope you don't perceive this as getting off on the wrong foot, but that's a lie. You
Excellent.
have charisma. I have charisma.
You're done. Get off my podcast.
That's right. Yeah. Everyone can develop the skill of charisma.
I love learned skills. I love them.
That's it. So instead of thinking of charisma as an inborn personality trait, I like to tell my clients charisma is actually a accessible and learnable skill, and I provide them a framework to figure out how to access that skill.
Available in good bookshops near you. Go on, you're going to give some of it away today, I hope. Okay.
You better believe it. I have my book, The Charisma Craft, here with me. It's my debut book, and it's really been informed by a lifetime of learnings, Paul. First and foremost, from my late grandfather, who was a used car salesman. I don't know if that profession carries the same stigma in the United Kingdom as it does here in North America. But he showed me that charisma isn't just this larger than life, gregarious personality trait, but it's actually something far more subtle and nuanced. And it really is the art of human connection. Beautiful.
Okay. So charisma is the art of human connection, right? Now, this conversation is hopefully going out to at least 2 listeners, one of which is my mother.
Who I saw was on your 100th episode. Yeah,
she was on my 100th episode.
She's loyal, and charisma actually helps build loyalty, I'll have you know.
Well, there we go. How can it help? How can it help all the sales leaders, all the salespeople who are listening to this, or leaders in general, how can it help them to manage their teams better? How can it help you sell better? What is it really, this human connection, this charisma?
So let's start there. What is it? I think for many listeners, maybe you grew up hearing about this ineffable or mysterious trait called charisma. And back in 2023, Oxford English Languages named Rizz the word of the year. Now, this word of the year beat out Swifties for all my Taylor Swift fans. She just got engaged yesterday. I'll be interested to see when our episode airs.
If she's still engaged.
Yeah, right, exactly. And I wish them well, in all honesty. But it's this idea that while Taylor Swift can take the world by storm, so did this word Rizz. Now let's break it down. Charisma is 3 syllables. It's very uncommon for a word to make it into our cultural zeitgeist with the root word being in the middle. We have influenza, which we call the flu, for example, and charisma really took a foothold with Gen Z. This is the group that's rising through our workforce right now, and many of them are sales reps, or they're being tasked to go out in the field. They're being tasked to pitch products, services, solutions. And what often happens is
themselves and their ideas.
Or themselves too. And often what happens is they get so caught up in all the noise, trying to build their brand or look good for a TikTok video, that they lose sight of what it really is. And charisma is really about them. It's about the other person. It's about your audience. It's about your prospect, your potential client or customer. So when we engage them, we actually are perceived as somebody that's likable, knowledgeable, and let's call it trustable. I think I just made that word up. So maybe Oxford English Languages will let me add that one. But in other words, it's an LKT factor. Do I like this person? Do they seem knowledgeable or competent? And can I trust them? Are they someone that I want to do business with?
Likable, knowledgeable, I'm writing this down, and trustable. Trustable is definitely a good word. Okay.
Right.
So now we know what it is. How do I become likable? I mean,
Great
knowledgeable,
question.
I can go off and learn stuff.
That's right.
Trustable, I can do things that I say I'm going to do. But likable?
Yeah.
What if I'm just a bit of a dick?
Yeah, I love this. So let me work backwards because you touched on something. Trust takes time. I think you'd agree, Paul. Trust is something that it's playing the long game, being, in our case, a man of our word, practicing what we preach, following through. Knowledgeable, as you said, you can become competent and go out and study something in this age of information, whether it's a YouTube video, an AI tool. But it is this likable piece that is so interesting because that's where first impressions come in. And if we go back to caveman days, there's things that we knew or learned or developed then that we've actually lost sight of now. And I'll give you an example. You and I have never met in person. We're here in a virtual environment. The first thing I do when I join a Zoom call is show my hands to showcase I have nothing to hide.
No weapons.
No weapons, nothing hidden behind my back, a spear. The same can be true in business. You know, across cultures, there's different ways to greet people, whether it's a firm handshake.
It's why we shake hands, Mike. I can't shake your hand if I've got a weapon in it.
Precisely. Or maybe COVID days, it was a elbow bump when I lived in your country, based in London. Or maybe in other cultures, it's bowing. But the whole idea is we like people that show us that element of reverence or respect. In other words, human decency. So there's a lot of mounting research that charisma really is the ability to be decent, the ability to be human, and the ability to be responsive. So that's where the likability factor comes in play. Ask yourself, what's the impression I'm trying to make, and is it authentic to me? Which we can go deeper on.
Okay, what's the impression I'm trying to make? But that I suppose that requires the thing that I rail about so much is a moment of reflection. You actually have to be conscious that you're trying to develop this. And most people drift. Most people just drift through life. And if you take that 30 seconds just to say, what am I doing? Then that alone, that question elevates you. Even if you don't answer it, just the pause. What am I doing? Where am I? What is this conversation about? What is my goal here? I'm just going to go in and talk to these people and hopefully we'll all get on. Well, who are they? What's important to them? What energy are they going to have? What energy do I have? How am I going to show up?
Yep.
How do I turn up still and calm or energetic and enthusiastic? What's right for this audience? And matching that, I think.
That's
It is
right.
a really hard thing to do.
It is hard, but it's possible.
Yes.
And I say that to encourage listeners.
Yes.
Because simply what you are pontificating on and pondering, and I love this train of thought, Paul, is the simple question of who do I want to be? Or if we take it a step further, who do I need to be in this moment? And the best sellers are intentional. They ask that question, who needs to show up in this meeting and why? So I want to break it down for listeners that might be more visual. There's two aspects to this mindfulness piece. And that's the first thing we're trying to access to become more charismatic as a mindset. There's the intention piece, number one, and the attention piece, number two. And what underpins that, in other words, our intention going into a setting, it can be a social setting, professional setting, business happens everywhere. We've got to practice this skill. So let's practice the intent behind it and make sure that it's for good, because charisma is powerful, right? The opposite of charisma is coercion and manipulation. And I want to make sure I make that very clear.
Yeah.
So what's my intent and how do I practice it? And then where's my attention going? And this is where the refinement piece comes in. So through intention and attention, we can practice and refine the charisma craft.
Okay. Now, I did like your public safety announcement there, your health warning. I mean, I've studied influence and persuasion for many, many years. So everything, Norman Vincent Peale, Napoleon Hill, Robert Cialdini, all these guys, even some hypnosis. And Cialdini is very clear that this stuff just works. So you can use it for good or for ill. My take is that you can use it for good or you can use it for ill once. Because once you get caught, you're done.
Yeah.
Right? As soon as you're caught, the bubble is gone.
That's the T, the trusty roads. The trusty roads.
You got to leave town. Right? So I think, as you said, you need to be conscious and intentional about what you're doing. Now we've decided what we're doing and what sort of attention. Do we need to decide what sort of attention we want? Is that the other side of this?
Intention and attention. And let me back up real quick, because I'd be remiss not to say it. Dr. Robert Cialdini, he actually endorsed my book.
Oh, wonderful.
His work on influence and persuasion truly changed my life. Because if we treat charisma as a skill that can help us deepen that human connection, then we start to think of sales as an act of service, not something I need to do to hit my quota or to make a big year-end bonus. Because if we fixate on all those things, if that's where our attention goes, the selling starts to get really difficult. It starts to become a grind. We start to doubt ourselves, second guess maneuvering and positions, and wonder if we're even doing this for the right reasons, or wonder if we're in the right profession, or doubt what we're selling. I know so many people who've been in some form of sales that literally loathe the product or service they're being asked to sell. And that's because they're so fixated, their attention's going towards that thing. It's not going towards the customer. What do you need? What are your pain points? What do you want? I might have it, I might not. I'm just going to shoot you straight. And it's that humanity where you start to develop your like, know, and trust factor.
The whole concept of service is something I can talk about for far too long, but I'm not here to listen to me, we're here to listen to you. But the idea of the service, the servant leader, in that, and of course the best exemplar of that is Jesus himself, out there selling his story with the sandals. So as the ultimate servant leader and exhibiting to get his message across and sell his news, which was good, C.S. Lewis says there are 4 sorts of love. And we don't talk about love in business. But you are allowed to talk about this one, because you have storge, you have philia, and you have eros. So you have the love of you to your brother, you have the love of you to your friend, you have the love of you to your wife. But then you have agape, which is the divine one, right? It's this selfless desire for the good of the other person. And that's the one you're aiming for in service. And if you're aiming at service to your buyer, to your world around you, you can't really go far wrong, because that's the externalization of your desire for the benefit of the other person. Not to your own. You're not setting yourself on fire to keep somebody else warm. That's daft. But if you're selling with the benefit of the other person in mind, then you're not focusing on the buying. You're not focusing on the selling. You're not focusing on the journey. You're focusing on the benefit of the individual. Right?
That's right.
And that turns you, I think, into a charismatic person. Well on the journey, at least. Because your desire is there for their benefit, for their...
That's 100% it. And I find it fascinating you're bringing religion into this, because if I think about Jesus being the ultimate steward of selling, the idea he was selling is the golden rule: do unto others as you would do unto yourself. And I have another colleague who I admire and respect. He's an author out of Canada by the name of Shed. That's what he goes by. Stephen, he's got a long name, Shedletsky. And Shed has the platinum rule, or he features the platinum rule in his book, which is do unto others as they want done to them. And that's the mindset of a servant-hearted seller, or someone of what are your needs? What are your wants, wishes, dreams, fears, motivations, ambitions, right? We could peel back so many layers of the onion in order to connect with the person. And charisma is that conduit to connect.
Yes. Conduit is a good word. It's conduit. As you are, I think, I mean, a lot of this comes down to asking questions.
Yeah.
Listening to the answers.
That's it. Yeah. Let me give you a framework, Paul, because
go for it. This is what I want to get. So come on, give me a framework. How do we do it?
Because when listeners hear this, they're like, okay, I need to ask better questions. I hear that all the time. I can hear younger reps maybe that don't have time on their side, or the level of maturity or sophistication, getting frustrated or flustered. And I really want to simplify it, because when I rose into management and then senior leadership, I saw this all the time. Get the flustered, the brain trash and the anxiety creeping up, that we couldn't just take a deep breath and calm down. So I'm going to provide a simple framework, which is the ABCs of Rizz. What is it? Your it factor? It's your charisma craft. So the ABCs are this: A, you've got to be authentic. You've got to stay true to you. Don't sell the script or the playbook. Yes, I'm sure a lot of these blueprints work, but make it your own. So use your vocabulary, your personal stories. Make sure that selling is authentic to you to connect with your audience. B, you've got to be bold. You've got to ultimately make the ask. You've got to be brave to make the calls, to get the meetings, there's so much boldness that is required in order to be a proficient seller. But the most important of all these ABCs is the C. And this is where you were leading us, Paul. It's curiosity. You've got to stay curious about the person it is that you are serving, the people you are trying to reach. Stay curious about your existing clients, because their needs are going to change. And we know in sales that attaining new clientele or customers costs far more than retaining existing ones. Yeah. Studies by Deloitte prove that. I just saw one come out from Shopify. It doesn't matter how transactional the sale is or relational the sale is. That's my background, is really high-end relational sales. It's a longer sales cycle. You have to stay curious, otherwise you'll lose them.
Totally. And it's one of the big things. I mean, I'm hiring right now, and it's one of the big things I hire for. So I hire for smart. So somebody who's actually intelligent. You hire for courage to be able to ask the big questions, and curiosity. Courage and curiosity, the two big ones. I love that. Big boldness, courage, yeah?
Yeah.
Ah, goodness. Authenticity, boldness, and curiosity, the ABCs. All right.
Well, and for listeners, I want to take that a step further, because my own understanding, and I'd be open to having my perspective shift or change, Paul, you might see it differently. I mentioned that bravery sits behind boldness. Bravery is the absence of fear. It's like, I got to pick up the phone and know that I might get 99 no's and 1 yes out of 100 calls, right? But the courage piece looks different. If courage sits behind curiosity, courage is saying, I'm going to stay in this even if I am fearful of getting feedback from a client. It's acting despite the fear. Whereas bravery, you're just fearless. Yeah. So I really think that don't substitute one for the other. Let's embody both, right? This is really about creating a holistic craft that works for you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think the bravery, I think, the absence of fear, the knowledge that there's nothing that can harm you. The knowledge that you're safe. You are loved, right? The courage is exactly as you said, is the definition that the things around me are difficult, challenging, whatever, but I'm going to go ahead regardless. I think courage is smarter, right? Sometimes you see bravery as bravado, which comes from the same root,
Yes.
right? But the courage is the I think the intellectual application. It's
Yeah.
this is some heavy stuff here, so I'm just going to keep bashing on anyway.
I
Okay,
love it.
right. So we've got charisma is a learnable skill. We know what charisma is. You need to be likable, knowledgeable, trustable. Being likable, as we think, might well be the hardest thing. You've got to think about your intention and get the attention. You're talking about this as a model for the ABCs of your charisma craft, the ABC of Rizz, charisma, authenticity, being bold and being curious. And you mentioned there one thing about talking about leaders who are coming up. And this is actually, it's a challenge, I think, in our AI world, in that so many of those early stage jobs are starting to disappear. I would not be looking for a graduate entry job right now for love nor money, because so many people are just looking at saying, well, I don't need to pay somebody to scan my contracts. I can have some bot do it for me. So those early stage jobs are going. But if we're talking about a 5-generation workforce, okay, 5 generations, how do you manage this? How do you interpret that really for a new and upcoming sales leader who can use this human connection, this charisma as a competitive advantage?
Absolutely. I think, if I'm understanding your question correctly, Paul, that no matter where you are in the generational workforce, you will carry a perspective on charisma. You might call it charisma, or you might call it Rizz. And you might high five a colleague and say, "You rizzed up that pitch. Like, you made it so much better." Like, you can use it as a verb too. It's not just a noun to describe someone or something. But I think what's most important is that we see the value in charisma is being, again, that conduit, that skill that can help us know our customers better and also know thyself better. I think sales is a team sport. So even if you have your own individual number to hit and you're out in the field, I have various tips, tools, and tactics for those sellers to really embody what I think is akin to executive presence, having a little bit more polish or what I like to call just that confidence. It's that's why my business is called Be Confident and Kind. We're a sales enablement training facility, but you can't just be confident, because if you're lacking the humanity or the warmth, in other words, what I call the kindness piece, then you might come across as too robotic, too forceful, too prescriptive. And so I think leaders, as they rise, they start to realize, okay, I'm confident because the proof is in the pudding. I see my track record, but really it's the leaders that lead with kindness that say, you will figure this out. Trust me, I figured it out for myself. I can give you the tools, but you've got to make them your own. They actually flip that script. Confidence takes the back seat and they lead with the kindness.
Excellent. Milam, we're going to pull this into a landing. I could go on forever on this. It's one of my favorite topics.
Sure.
If I gave you the biggest marker pen you could possibly imagine, an enormous Sharpie, and a great big billboard that the world would see, what would you write on it? What's your one message?
It's a brilliant question, Paul, and I'm using the power of the pause to really make sure I'm answering it
You
with
take your time.
utmost intention. I think it would be, according to the research out of Princeton University, out of the Fisk Lab, people who are competent and warm, or what I like to call in my formula, people that are confident and kind, are charismatic. So I would write, be confident and kind and develop your charisma craft.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you very much indeed for joining me, Milam Miller, author of The Charisma Craft. I have absolutely increased my Rizz being anywhere close to you. And I can highly recommend that you go and get the book. The link will be in the description of this episode. Thanks again for joining me.
You're so welcome, Paul. And if I had an ounce of your beautiful accent, then I think my risk factor would increase as well.